What is up, guys? MMA Mafia coming at you with another video. Today we're going to be going over what Ilia Topuria needs to do to become the GOAT of MMA. If you like the video, leave a like, subscribe, share the video. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Now before we get into this, I'm going to just say, rip Charles Oliveira. We knew it was going to happen, but we just didn't want to accept it. You know, our boy went out there, went out on his shield, you know, went into the fire with Ilia Topuria and unfortunately got knocked out. But we have a new star in the UFC. He's one of the biggest fighters. After that knockout, I think he's one of the most popular fighters in the UFC, definitely top 3. And now, after these last 3 wins, his legacy has shot up a ton. You know, a lot of people are saying he's the GOAT or he's higher on the GOAT list than Khabib, and a lot of other takes. You know, I think he's up there as well. I think he's top 15, easily top 15. You know, could be top 10, debatable. But Ilia Topuria, last 3 wins: Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski. Those are the best 3 wins back to back of all time. I don't want to hear anything else. You know, and people are trying to diminish his win over Oliveira and Volk and Max, saying, oh, Volk came off the KO against Makhachev. It's still Alexander Volkanovski at the end of the day, you know. And at least he had a full training camp for the fight against Ilia Topuria. And also, they're saying Max was drained, like he didn't fight at 145 his whole career. And I know going up to a weight class and then coming back down isn't the best, but still, he's been fighting at 145 his whole career, pretty much. So, people just like to diminish. You know, it's just a lot of Makhachev fans and stuff. And the Oliveira fight, they're saying, oh, Islam beat Charles in his prime. Like, Charles is completely washed and he's not good at all. He might not be as good as when he fought Islam Makhachev, but he's still a great fighter, still top 3 in lightweight division, you know. Top 2 in my opinion, but, you know, Ilia Topuria went in there, got the job done, you know, and we're looking at his next fight. Paddy Pimblett came into the cage. I don't really want that fight next, you know. I don't think it does too much for Ilia Topuria's legacy unless he goes out there and he beats Paddy Pimblett. I'm talking about if he goes out there and beats Arman Tsarukyan or another big name, you know, because we only seen him against Chandler. So I'd like to see him fight at least Gaethje or Arman Tsarukyan, you know. But I think the next person that Ilia Topuria should be fighting is Arman Tsarukyan. But a lot of people are saying, oh, Arman's been out too long, Ilia Topuria is going to run him over. You know, it's unfortunate we're not going to get the Makhachev fight right now, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with him and Jack Della Maddalena. That fight's not even announced yet, so we got to wait and see when that's going to happen. So Ilia Topuria has some time to get a defense or 2 in while we wait for that. But Ilia Topuria, there's a couple things I think he just needs to do to become the GOAT of the sport. He doesn't need to do too much more, you know, in my opinion. Already double champion, undefeated. Volkanovski, Charles, Max Holloway on his record. You know, if he has a couple title defenses here, and I'm going to go over the people who I think he needs to beat. First person I think that Ilia Topuria would need to beat is Arman Tsarukyan, like I was saying. You know, Arman Tsarukyan, proven in the division, he beat Oliveira. So, you could have made the argument that he deserved to fight over Oliveira. You know, but the UFC are kind of just doing him dirty now, you know, tossing him to the side. He's a great fighter. You know, and I don't know what the UFC is doing with him. They're just making a point out of him because he pulled out of that fight. You know, other fighters have pulled out of fights too before. You know, before the a day before the title fight. You know, they're just throwing him to the side, blackballing him right now. I don't know why they're doing that. Arman Tsarukyan, great fighter, and it would be a very entertaining fight. It'd be a little tough matchup before if he faces Islam Makhachev. They kind of have similar styles. You know, heavy wrestling. You know, so it'd be a good test for Ilia Topuria to face him and see how he does against Arman Tsarukyan before he faces Islam Makhachev, if that fight ever happens. God forbid. But I think that'd be a great matchup, and it would be great for his legacy. You know, again, he has a win over Oliveira, speaking of Arman Tsarukyan. You know, and we've seen what he's done to other competitors in this lightweight division. And I think it would just be, it's the toughest fight for him in this division, in my opinion. You know, and I think we really need to see that one. I think the Paddy Pimblett fight does need to happen, but I think he needs one more win, you know, Paddy Pimblett. He needs a one win to show that he's a top contender in this lightweight division. You know, Chandler, it was a great performance that he put on against Chandler. I'm not trying to take away from Paddy Pimblett and what he did in that fight, but it's Michael Chandler, and we've seen him lose a couple times in the UFC. You know, we've seen him lose recently a lot. So, you know, it does show how good he is in that fight, but we need to see him against one more person. You know, if they want to wait, if they want to have Ilia Topuria wait while they have Paddy Pimblett versus Arman Tsarukyan for the title fight, you know, I wouldn't mind that either. You know, I don't really want to see Gaethje. We keep hearing about Gaethje crying about not getting it, or if he gets any other fight than a title fight, then he's going to retire. Like, shut the fuck up and retire then, dude. You lost to Max Holloway not that long ago. You got a win over Rafael Fiziev, and you think you're going back right into a title fight. Ridiculous. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to do Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria. You know, we heard Dana White at the press conference say that it doesn't mean that Pimblett's going to get the title shot, but they probably saw all the numbers that the interview or the moment of him, Paddy Pimblett, and Ilia Topuria in the octagon together after the main event at UFC 317. So they're probably going to look at the numbers and say, oh, well, this is going to be a big fight. We got to do this one. And I think they're going to try to do Arman Tsarukyan versus Justin Gaethje to have the number one contender fight in that fight. So that's what I think they're going to do. But I just want to see the Arman fight for Ilia Topuria right now. It's a great fight. You know, it'll do a lot for his legacy. I think Pimblett does do a good amount for his legacy, but Pimblett hasn't really proven himself, you know. Not in my opinion, to go into a fight with Ilia Topuria, the number one pound for pound fighter, you know. But I think he gets a couple defenses at lightweight. Arman Tsarukyan, Paddy Pimblett, you know. Maybe if Mauricio Ruffy gets up to the division, you know, he has fight news coming. He hasn't fought since the Bobby Green win. I don't know why he's not fighting since the Bobby Green win. You know, he should have been fought by then, or since then. He literally took no damage in that fight. He's talking a lot on social media about fighting Ilia Topuria. He says he's coming for him. I'm a big fan of him and the fighting nerds in general, but you have to come in here and you got to get those wins to get up to the top, you know? He's just talking right now. I like to see you get in there and face guys that are going to get you to the top, you know? He's just been out for a little bit since the Bobby Green fight. But if he comes in there and he proves he's as good as we think he is, you know, and he beats top 10 fighter next, then top 5 fighter, you know, I'd like to see that matchup. That's a very interesting matchup as well. You know, we've seen Mauricio Ruffy. Looks like 145 Conor McGregor. Ilia Topuria also looks like Conor McGregor. He's on the double champ run. You know, both are obviously influenced by Conor McGregor. You know, it'd be an interesting fight. I'd like to see that one day, but I don't know if Ruffy's going to get up there in time, because Ilia Topuria says he wants to retire a little early. So hopefully we get that fight one day. I don't know if we're going to get it, but back to what we were saying. Ilia Topuria, I think that 2-3 title defenses, you know, we don't know when Islam Makhachev is going to fight Jack Della Maddalena, you know, and we don't know if he wins that fight, he's going to stay at 170. He says he's going to come back down to 155. I bet the UFC would try to push that a lot if he won. Either way, if he wins or loses, they're going to push the Ilia Topuria fight onto him, you know. This is a big money fight. One of the biggest fights in UFC history. Again, people are saying this is Conor McGregor versus Khabib 2.0. So we need to see the fight. But, again, Ilia Topuria, Arman Tsarukyan, Paddy Pimblett, another up-and-comer. You know, there's not a lot of guys that are going to challenge him, in my opinion, in this lightweight division, other than maybe those two. I think Paddy Pimblett's not really going to challenge him too badly, but Arman Tsarukyan really is going to challenge him a lot. And if we have another up-and-comer again like Rufi that comes up here, maybe Ilia Topuria can get a title defense against him. But I think after 2 fights in the lightweight division, 2 title defenses, I think the fight with Islam and Jack Della Maddalena should be done. And I think if Ilia Topuria beats Islam Makhachev, I think you could easily make a case for him to be the GOAT. You know, it'd be 3 fights. He'd be 20-0. You know, he'd have beaten Islam Makhachev, Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, Volkanovski. You know, those are 5 great wins. and those are quality wins. I wouldn't want to hear anything after that of Jones has so many more title defenses. A lot of people will talk about title defenses included into the GOAT talk. John Jones was facing middleweights that were 36 years old while he was 23 years old, and now he didn't want to fight fucking Tom Aspinall when the pants are on the other fucking person. So I don't want to hear anything about John Jones. I don't think he's the GOAT right now, in my opinion. I think he really diminished his legacy at the end, but also just the steroids. But if you've seen my other videos on John Jones and the GOAT discussion in general, then you'll know. But Ilia Topuria, I think he's just 3 fights away from becoming the GOAT. He's already done so much. I think, like I said earlier, people think he's above Khabib. I think the same thing. I think he's above Khabib already. Just look at what he's done in the UFC with such a little time, double champion, 3 great names on his resume. Those are top 20 UFC fighters, 3 of them. Some of them top 10, 2 of them top 10 in my opinion. Max Holloway and Volkanovski. So, Ilia Topuria, I just think he needs a couple more fights. And even then, he was talking about going up to 170. If they do the fight at 170 and he beats Islam Makhachev, there's no debate. Triple champion, and he beats Islam Makhachev. 3 weight classes. That would just be unheard of. And I think that would instantly make him to go easily. No discussion at all. But either way, I think, again, Arman Tsarukyan, Paddy Pimblett, Islam Makhachev, and then he beats like an up-and-comer or something at 155, like Mauricio Rufy. I think he's easily the GOAT. And if he just continues to keep fighting after that, and he ends with like a 26-0 record, 28-0 record, 27-0 record, if he sticks around a little longer, he'll easily become the GOAT. We haven't seen a fighter like this in a long time. Very special talent. Big fan of him. And I'm very excited to see what happens next with his career and what goes on. I really want to see that Arman Tsarukyan fight and the Makhachev fight. But we'll just have to wait and see. It's insane how we had to count on Bilal Muhammad. Just to bring this up, we had to count on Bilal Muhammad to see this Islam versus Ilia fight, and he fucking failed us, of course. The one time we were rooting for him to win, he fucking loses. But I wasn't really rooting for him to win because I'm a big Jack Della Maddalena fan. But either way, we would want to see the Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev fight, and he just goes out there and fucking sucks it up. So that's just fantastic. But if you like the video, leave a like, subscribe, share the video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Comment down below what you guys want to see next and leave your thoughts. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.